I grew up in Perth, a place called City Beach, South City Beach, and just, I think it was just so outdoorsy, just kind of sleeping in your board cover down the beach, waiting for the sun to come up and going surfing. My father was definitely handy. He was an academic but very proactive. He'd always be doing a bricklaying course or a leather course. I had a very good friend, and his father was very clever with a metal lathe, and his grandfather was even more clever, so we were always making things and getting their help. I loved woodworking at school, but then in year 10 I had to find another subject, and I did art, and I had an incredible art teacher who really had a big influence on me. You know, as a teenager, learning about Brett Whiteley and John Olsen and all those people, it was pretty special. She told me once that she thought I'd be a great, sounds embarrassing, a great designer, and I remember being so devastated because all I wanted to be was an artist. So I was thinking about pursuing more of a art direction, and then I saw there was an industrial design course at UTS in Sydney, and I thought it'd be a bit exciting to move to the other side of Australia, and I knew there were good waves on the east coast. Coming out of uni, there wasn't a heap of opportunities. It was pretty challenging, to be honest. Exhibitions and competitions were really useful for me because it would make me do something and I would have an outcome. When I left university, I actually worked for Parker Furniture for a little while, and Parker Furniture had gone backwards a little bit, and a guy called Reg Humphreys purchased Parker Furniture, and he was just this amazing man, and he wanted me to become part of this new business and actually have an equity, which was, I was so young, super exciting. On the Friday afternoon, he went back to his office, and at 49, he had a heart attack and died. And it was just so sad. I had a very fortunate moment when Giulio Cappellini came out to Australia, and I had an opportunity to show him some work. I just finished a chair called my Stitch chair, and I pulled it apart and I sprayed it, it had 10 components, and I sprayed it 10 different colours and glued the hinges on. And he got there before me, and he sat on the chair, and the chair actually came apart and did the splits, and he didn't hurt himself, fortunately. The following year I went to Milan and I took a little maquette that I'd made, and he said he wanted to put it in production, so that was very significant for me. I think my first thing I ever had published actually was Inside magazine, when Heidi Dockelel came out to my little dodgy apartment in Maroubra and interviewed me, and Ewan McEwen was the editor back then. I couldn't live off money I was making off design, so I'd always be doing different things. Originally it was carpentry and that sort of thing, and then later I started working at university and teaching furniture. So I was constantly juggling all these things until those kind of jobs would back off, and then the design would take more of a place until the point where I was able to stand on my own 2 feet. I do definitely have a bit of a design philosophy that I'd rather just have a handful of very good clients that I work with rather than many, many clients to work with. And I think maybe it's taken a little bit longer, but ultimately I think it's a better thing because I have very close relationships with a handful of very good clients. I feel very fortunate to be working with Colt and Tate. They've really invested in me, and now I'm fortunate enough to have a number of pieces in their collection, which brings back royalties for me, which is fantastic. I've had some successful projects, one of them being the Malloy chair, and the Sydney Opera House suggested that they wanted to include it in one of their spaces. So it was this really nice process, and it all had to go past the Utzon Foundation back in Denmark to be approved and that kind of thing. Since I've finished uni, it's probably been 30 odd years or so, and I think the landscape in Australia is very different now. I think there's a massive shift, and there's an appetite for Australian design. If you look at Scandinavia, their population is the population of Sydney, and obviously they come from a culture of design, but they sell their brand to the rest of the world. I think if I had any advice for young people, it would be there's no point having ideas and then not executing them. Like, it's really important to have an outcome. So, and it's one thing to create a rendering, but it's another thing to actually create a real product. I was thrilled to be asked to be one of the mentors in the 30 Under 30 initiative. It's quite a difficult road to navigate, being an establishing or young designer. In speaking to some of the people who went through the program, they said it was invaluable. It obviously feels good now that I can exist as a designer in Australia and work with all these wonderful people and have all these different projects and sort of be creatively challenged in many different ways.